Go ahead and bring your mic up here. What do you want your on cam name to be?
Oh my god.
Closer. You want about this close?
Real close.
Yep, you can. If you hold the table and grab the whole thing, you can move it anywhere you want it to go.
Well, where's the best place for it here?
Yep, right in front of your face, right here.
Alright.
Just keep in mind that you're gonna be looking at me when you're doing. So, yeah. And I'll adjust your levels a little bit. Give me a testing.
Testing 1, 2.
All right, perfect. On cam name. On cam name.
Kristen.
Yeah.
The Dominator.
Denominator.
The Dominator.
The Dominator.
DAHM. A nader.
Dominator.
I don't care
Fuck
whatever
yeah.
you want to call me, Kristen.
All right.
KRMASL13. That's my handle and all my shit.
That's a lot.
We'll jot it down later. I don't know.
Okay, and I'm gonna hit record here.
All right.
And we are ready to go.
All right. Are we recording?
Yep, we're recording.
All right. Hello, everybody out there. My name is Kristen. This is my co-host, Steven. We are doing a new After Dark special on the entertainment panel. This is going to be our panel After Dark. So on this panel, we're going to be covering things of a little bit of a darker nature. I would say more conspiracy theory, media centered type of things. We're going to start off our first show with Astroworld, only because we just recently came upon the 3-year anniversary, which threes are very significant in kind of the conspiracy world. So yeah, we're going to start there. And then my name's Kristen. As I said, I am first and foremost autism mother, and he's my pride and joy. I have been studying the occult, spooky things, rap culture, music culture, entertainment since I was very young, and Astro World and its little conspiracies are right up my alley. So we're gonna start there, but you guys are more than welcome to write in about what you want to see and hear, and as always, we'd be more than welcome to take your suggestions.
We can't see the comments right now. Can't see the comments right now on our live stream, but we will be taking a look at it. Obviously, those comments stay there. So if there's anything that you guys want us to cover in the future, definitely let us know. And we'll be more than happy to cover that for you guys. Definitely going to be dealing with a little bit more hip hop conspiracy here. Things that are fun. But this was actually really super interesting to watch.
Yes.
And it's very multifaceted. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of information and a ton of misinformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Which was really fun. Where do you want to start?
So I am just going to start with a little bit of information just to recap on the situation. As I said, November 5th is 2021 is when the incident happened. So we just recently passed the anniversary, the 3-year anniversary. This event took place in Houston, Texas, which is Travis Scott's hometown. Big deal. Travis is, in particular, he loves to like hype up Houston and whatnot. So I know that the crowd was just crazy pumped to begin with.
Yeah, he's got a key to the city.
Yeah, exactly.
He's their hero,
right.
Hometown hero for sure.
Right.
Outside of Beyonce and Bun B, and there's Travis Scott.
Yeah.
That's his town. That's his city.
Exactly. And they were definitely like overhyped and everything, like tweeting for months in advance, whatnot. And then the posters, promos, everything, especially like the Astro World album. You know what I mean? So, this was a huge thing at NRG Park in Houston, and there was a ton of really great artists there. I mean, I would have loved to see, I'm not a festival person myself, I would have never gone, but like, I would have loved to see, especially Earth, Wind, and Fire was there.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I didn't know that there were other people who were there that were headlining alongside him.
Yeah.
Which made a big, huge difference,
Right.
And when you look at the time that they were there until the time that it ended, it was crazy. A little background on Astro World. So where it sits, it used to be a Six Flags theme park.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it's all cement.
Okay.
If you notice, which is wild, because a lot of times when you go to festivals and stuff like that, a lot of it is in the grass,
right.
Which is easier. But this was on all cement, and it sits right outside of another stadium in Houston, I believe, NRG Stadium, where the Houston Texans play, I want to say. I'm not exactly sure, but I know something else is there. But on that land, like I mentioned, the city has been up and down trying to figure out what to do with that land and
Uh-huh.
how to repurpose it. And since it was an amusement park for so long, it was a great initiative by Travis Scott to recreate it and to bring that theme park back. So it wasn't just a big deal for, oh my God, Travis Scott is coming home. He's about to do a his own festival like Tyler the Creator would do, or his own festival like when J Cole does the Dreamville Fest.
Hmm.
It's a little bit deeper than that because it was something for Houston by Houston. It was a Houston tradition to have that there
Right.
in that space.
Right.
So that space is like very, it's almost like sacred ground.
Right.
And that's one thing that I found was really incredible, was just the background behind Astro World. Basically where I wonder if that's by where the no, I think that's by Energy Stadium. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, Sacred Ground. I mean, definitely a really big venue. It's all cement,
Right. Right.
which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of a crazy place to hold a concert anyway, you know what I mean? Where like all those people in collective and stuff, and just when you get to the rest of the story, I'm sure that played absolutely a factor
100%.
into
Yeah.
the end results. So just to clarify, this concert was a huge deal. It was supposed to be a 3-day festival, and they
Hmm.
canceled it after that first night that Travis headlined. But it was supposed to feature artists like Young Thug. I know that SZA was there,
Hmm.
and that was right before Travis. But Little Baby was supposed to be there. Earth, Wind and Fire, Master P, 21 Savage, and then I heard that there was also like kind of speculation that Drake might have performed with him. So
Hmm.
people were definitely like kind of anticipating that, excited about that. Um, so there was 50,000 originally anticipated guests at here. So the thing about Astroworld is kind of weird because there's so many different numbers of
Hmm.
things. Like there was 50,000 anticipated, but as you see further in the details we get to, there was over. I'm very sorry.
No, you're
Calm down now.
good. No, you're good.
I'm Tapper. It's all that good ADHD.
You're fine. You're fine.
But they expected at least over 5,000 people like infiltrated that building or that structure with over the course of just hours and hours. So, I mean, God knows how many people they really had in there at that time. I mean, there's numbers online between 50, 75, 100,000 people. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Which is wild because in years past, this wasn't the first time that he held this event, but in years
Right,
past, they also blew past security, and it
right,
was
right.
and had a lot of people just completely disregard security and sneak their way in.
Yeah,
Travis Scott encouraged his
I
people
know.
to sneak in, and not only that, but there was a lot of pent up energy because it's 2001 and they skipped Astro World 2020
Right, because
because of
COVID.
COVID.
Right.
So that made a big difference. I don't know if you were getting there, but
We'll get to all that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
for
cool, cool,
sure.
cool.
Yeah, and actually, like Travis and just like the Travis Scott culture, you know what I mean? It tends to be younger kids. I mean, of course, all ages and whatnot, but it's
Hmm.
just, I mean, we're in our 30s now, so it's like, you know how it is when you're back in your 20s and your early teens or late teens, whatever, and it's just like, oh my God, everything's the end of the world, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Such a big deal, and especially like a Scott concert, it's like such a huge deal for a lot of these kids and stuff. So it's like, and especially things like Travis tweeting beforehand, months
Hmm.
beforehand, like the real ones are gonna have to sneak in. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So it's like I feel like that was almost like Travis knows exactly what he's doing, where he's like, pushing the rage culture and things like that. And it's like he is kind of like a younger man, I feel in spirit, where he would
Hmm.
like enjoy that kind of intensity in his crowds and stuff. But yeah, I feel like that was definitely like a come on, you know what I mean? Like the real ones gotta sneak in, get past that security.
I
So
think at the time he's 33 right now, so that would
mhm.
put him as what, 30?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, still like,
Still a young man.
right, exactly. And his fans very much the same kind of age base and
Hmm.
demographic and everything like that. But this was just wild from the beginning, like from the jump. I mean, there are reports of like fans lining up at 5 a.m. And it's like, okay, Travis didn't go on until 9 o'clock at night. That's 16 hours that those people are out there. And I mean, like, I don't know anything about Houston. We're from the North, Midwest. But I don't know what Houston would have been like in November, you know what I mean? Like early November around here, we still get some warmer days. So it's like being out in Houston, even at that time, it could have possibly been hot, especially with all that concrete kind of like lifting the heat and whatnot. So it's like for people to start lining up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then they don't see Travis Scott for 16 hours. And then the thing about it is there's reports that there was like next to no water stations there. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know that prices for stuff are just astronomical. You go around here to concerts, it's like, if you want one beer, you're paying $9, $12, $16 at a Blackhawks game or whatever. Go Bears. Please. Don't make us wait 100 years.
Go Bears.
Yeah.
Please. It's crazy.
Please. Anyway, so like I said, fans started lining up at 5 a.m. We have kind of a timeline here to go through, where by 8:15 in the morning, you know what I mean? They had been lined up for so long. There was already just injuries and stuff like that going on, where 8:15 in the morning, calls were made to request riot gear by the Houston PD because of already things like injuries and whatnot. So from 9 to 10, that's when all this initial stampeding begins. They broke down the barriers in the stadium, you know, things like barriers, the security checkpoints and whatnot. I mean, 10 o'clock in the morning, that's wild.
Did you see the footage of people running in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I can only imagine like is that good morning?
Yeah.
8:15 in the morning, like, where's my coffee? And I get trampled. I would just be done, absolutely done at that one single. No, I'm good. You know
One
what I
of the
mean?
girls described it. She said, if I would have fell, I would have gotten stepped over and died.
Yes. I mean, I would have just seen that. I'm a mother, so I would have just been like, can I help? You know what I mean? And thank God, it sounds like there were plenty of people there that did that. You know what I mean? But we'll get to that also. So again, 5,000 suspected non-ticket holders got into there, like just like the footage, you see maybe a couple hundred people, but then the fact that that just went on for hours, you know what I mean, from just different checkpoints around the stadium, like, it just blows me away. You know what I mean? I mean, so, and then Houston PD, they tried, you know what I mean, but it's like, what do you do in that situation? You know, I mean, it's kind of like back and forth on who are you going to listen to. Like a lot of people said, oh, I'd only listen to Travis Scott. A lot of people, I mean, I would be like, I'm going to listen to Houston PD. You know what I mean? As they kind of like run the show, and everybody else just kind of comes and goes as far as artists and security that they supply and things like that. But Houston PD actually called for like preparatory runs, dry runs of security. They asked for extra radios just so they can be more involved and whatnot. We're denied access to all of that, you know. And it's like when we really get into the bread and butter of that kind of situation, it's like, well, who is wrong?
Right. Who's responsible?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing with this situation is who's responsible. And in the end, it was nobody. So
that's so wild.
Yeah. So timeline. So by 12 noon, this is in just total like shit show mode, where like they're having such problems with like volatile crowds. You know, everybody just kind of like rushed the one certain gate and just went straight to the merchandise stand. Where like by noon they're shutting it down. You know what I mean? I saw videos of just like people hopping over. You know what I mean? Like the merchandise stand to get to merchandise and just steal it. It's like, really, what are you gonna do? How much are these places, you know, realistically paying these people to work there? I mean, minimum wage here is $7.25 an hour. So like, what are you gonna do if you go work for Live Nation? They're paying you $7.25 an hour, and then somebody's hopping. You know what I mean? I'll just be like, have a nice day.
Not my problem.
Yeah. Can you stash one over there?
Yeah, and it was so weird, so crazy looking at how everything just kind of collapsed because they had filed lines, and then at one point the fans and the concert goers just started moving the dividers out of the way, and then just rushing. There were two different stations for merch that were open. One got overwhelmed, so they shut it down, and then everyone just converged to the one that was still open. And that's kind of a common theme here of events that happen. It's just people just moving as
Yeah.
like a herd.
Yeah, right. Mass migrations, literally from the
Mhm.
opening to the merchandise stands, you know what I mean? And then from what was it, the North stage, I think the Travis Scott stage, you know, and that's where the South quadrant really took most of the brunt, as you find out later down the line.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, by 2:30, it's recorded that like authority figures had given up on everything. They were quitting. Like at one point, they were checking COVID cards, like to make sure you had gotten a negative COVID test. So it's like they were checking for COVID, they were checking for wristbands, they were doing pat downs and whatnot. And then by 2:30, literally just no, we're good. I'm good. You know
Send
what I
through.
mean? Right. And then you see these videos of these people just rushing. And it's like, I would do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's not worth your life. Like for 7.25 an hour, Travis Scott, I'm gonna take a knee, you know? So yeah, I mean I can just only imagine. 3:15 reports of injuries, dangerous crowd conditions, security breaches, surges, injuries, and unrest until literally 8 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? So this whole time, all this is going on.
And by this time, some people have already been there for.
Oh,
Once you get to 8 o'clock, there's some people who've probably been there over 12 hours.
yes, that's what I'm saying. If you line up at 5 a.m. and then Travis doesn't go on until 9, that's like 16 hours.
Mhm.
You know, that's a long time. It's very wearing, especially when you don't have any water, food, things like that. And the things at the concert, I mean, this is a problem where it's like so ridiculously expensive that it's like you really have no choice. You know what I mean? This has been a running theme at a lot of different concerts. Um, so I can just only imagine like the firsthand accounts. I'm sure if you watch the videos and look on Reddit, there's people who post their personal stories. Like I can remember being at concerts when I was young and them talking about the surges. And it's just like I haven't been at a concert like that and I couldn't tell you how long, but it's just like flashed me back to that memory of just being in that spot where yeah, you really are at the mercy of the crowd.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's just like one person pushes and you're at the mercy. You know what I mean? And I could see how it would be easy. And I remember thinking that in certain situations, like this is how I'm gonna die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna die for Limp Bizkit. Like you know what I'm saying? I'm good.
I'm gonna die for Fred Durst.
Yeah. Fun fact: I touched Fred Durst's thigh. Shout out to Fred Durst. Hit me up. No, I'm just kidding. But shout out to Shaq. You are the inspiration in everything I do.
Yeah, shout out Shaq.
We love him.
We love
We
Shaq.
love him.
I've been a Laker fan since '96.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe that was right around Shaquille's first year
There you go.
in Lakerland. We're right around there. Right around there.
See, I was from Chicago, so I was like morally obligated to be a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, that's all right. It's okay. Hey, I'm just waiting on the Bears. If they wait 100 years, I'll be 96 years old. I'm just gonna croak like out of joy or just because they lose still. Anyway, but yeah, what up, Shaq? Back to Travis Scott. Yeah, so this is just a total shit show for a good 14 hours at this point. I would be exhausted. My feet would hurt. I would want a snuggie. And
I'm
to go
surprised a
home.
lot of people lasted that
I
long.
know, that is wild. By 8:30, 8:15, they stopped documenting triage patients at 300. So by 8:15 at night, more than 300 people have come through triage. And then they're just like, we're done. We're not gonna report them anymore. So it's like, really, how many injuries are there at this place?
And
Like,
the show hadn't started yet.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And that's the next thing. At 8:30, the countdown begins that Travis Scott is gonna come on stage, right? And this is when everybody like really loses their shit and wants to get to that main stage, right? And that's when all the reports of real surges and whatnot come through and people are reporting, you know, yelling, screaming, it's difficult for them to breathe. 9 p.m. reports of people being trampled begin.
Yeah.
9 p.m. Travis doesn't
Now-
even come on.
So to give the viewers an idea of what it's like to be in one of those crowds, right?
Mm.
So a lot of people described that in those crowds, especially the shorter people, they described that not only could they not move, but they were almost being lifted and carried.
Yeah.
Like the crowd, the way that the crowd was moving, it was just pushing forward,
Mm-hmm.
and it kept going forward and forward. So, people were getting separated. There was one girl who I saw, and her arm was extended.
Yeah.
And because, a lot of people, they have their phones out above their heads. And when their phones out above their heads or extended or anything like that, again, you're just moving with the crowd. You breathe how you breathe. This, well, you could suffocate if you don't have enough room to breathe and your arms are above your head or extended out. So she she had the camera in her hand, and her hand was extended, and it was just recording, and it was recording. She was screaming and crying because her arm was being bent, and it was just moving with the people, and she couldn't pull her arm back to her body. And then she was short, so she's just trying to keep her head above whoever, everyone else, and there wasn't room, standing room in between people. Everyone was just body to body. If you were a short person, you're in someone's back.
Oh yeah.
You're in someone's chest. You're not seeing everything. There's no way. And it was just terrible. And a lot of people did. I don't know if you mentioned here the other concert that was going on that ended.
No, actually, I just focused on Travis.
So there was another concert, not a whole entire event, but SZA was on a different stage.
Right. And Don Toble.
Right.
Yeah.
With Tolliver? Not Tolliver?
Yes,
Don
I'm
Tolliver?
sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
Thinking Bon Toble.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. That's so funny. Once her set ended, everyone from that set walked around, and the closest area they could be was the south.
Right.
It was the south.
Right.
Portion of the crowd where most of the casualties happened.
Yes, that south quadrant was just
And then they all came from a different area, packed in, and started pushing.
Right. And I will go into detail about like what the constriction, the square footage and whatnot. But yeah, so all this is going on, and these people are just being constricted, and by 9 o'clock at night, like I said, and Travis Scott doesn't even go on until 9:02. So at this point, with all this going on, there's actual talk of canceling the show, right? So they're talking about how, due to safety concerns, they wanted to cancel the show and whatnot. But it's like, at that point, how do you do it? And they had said that they decided not to because of how difficult it would be just to go into that situation. And there were police in the crowd, there were EMTs in the crowd, a makeshift ambulance of sort in the crowd that I'm sure that they did wonders, but in that situation, you do next to nothing,
right.
So
you say you shut it down,
yeah, I can only imagine.
And people who've been there for 12 hours plus, who spent $365 to be there, their anger and frustration, it could have caused. I think that was. Do you think that was right?
So I did want to touch on this because I feel like it can go either way.
Do you want to do that before we go over more of the details, or after?
No, we're actually leading into that right now.
Okay, perfect.
So my thought with this is, okay, so you're completely right. How much these people are spending on tickets for this 3-day festival, these prices are just astronomical. And then you factor in food, you factor in water, you factor in transportation. You know what I mean? You're talking next to $1,000 just for 3 days, if that, not factoring in hotels and whatnot. You know what I mean? And I know personally, if I had traveled, if I had spent that much money and then it got shut down, like, I would be pissed. And people were just pissed going in, like, just in general, because that's the way that the culture is with his shows. Like, it's just like, you kind of go there like to get pissed, you know what I mean? And like, get out that energy, that frustration. And like, Travis he makes it well known, he wants you to come to a show and get lit and do whatever you can to have a good time, and so you have this kind of 50,000 plus people that are just young, angry, hungry, tired, wet, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I would be pissed. So yeah, in that kind of situation, and they did actually determine that it was too dangerous for them to go in. And there could have been so much more destruction had they done that. I mean, you think about rides that we've had in the past, and it's like, they could have torn down that stadium. I mean, they did that at the VMAs or MTV Awards back in the 90s, where the artists were tearing down stages. It's like, and you have these events where, yeah, people do destroy tent or sets, and it's multi-million-dollar productions. I mean, even fireworks, which right off the bat, there were also firework burns and asphyxiation and things like that, or smoke inhalation that had taken people out to begin with in the very beginning. So it's like, you have so many people and so much money wrapped into it. And then again, it goes back to the discussion of who are you going to listen to? Like, is it up to Houston PD to call it? Like, who are you going to fly in the mayor Ghostbusters to call off the show? Like, Travis
And
Scott.
and his relationship with the mayor was very peculiar too, because or no, it was the police chief.
Yes, the
Police chief
yes.
and the mayor.
Yeah.
That and the police chief actually, it said that they had a meeting. The police chief had a meeting with Travis directly before he went on.
Right.
And Travis's camp describes it as a 2 minute, hey, what's up? What's going on? Good to see you. All right, bye. But the police chief describes it as, oh, there were precautions and there were things that we were concerned about that we wanted to address.
Right.
So the two different stories there, but
exactly, and it's like, well, who is right, who's lying, who's not? I mean, on one hand, it's like you have the Houston PD that wants to put these precautions into, into effect, and supposedly had this meeting where they let Travis or whoever know that there were these safety precautions or things that they were concerned about and whatnot. Where it's like, I mean, as Houston PD chief of police, wouldn't you want people to think that you did that? You know what I mean? But then as Travis Scott, like, do you want people to think that you didn't stop this concert where you knew this stuff was going on already? So there's just, again, a lot into it, a lot, to discuss really with this in particular. Again, it said, stopping the show incite riots? Like, would they have torn down the stage? You know what I mean? Would there have been more injuries? You know what I mean? You're thinking about like tearing stuff down. Look at like Woodstock '99.
right.
It's a miracle that there weren't more deaths, injuries with that. But yeah, but I think it's funny talking about this, because then also through this, I kind of got into the rabbit hole of just like other artists that are well known for being kind of darker satanic artists. For example, Slipknot, where they have these like wild fans, wild shows. Like, I mean, even the band members, like, are doing crazy shit. But it's like Slipknot in particular is well known for being like, hey, stop. And they will not stop until, crowds are under control, fans are taken care of, things like that. And this is supposed to be, you know what I mean, more of a satanic band, whereas Travis Scott is more mainstream. So it's like, that's also another concept of it, which will eventually lead into our conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
All right.
Which is yet to come.
So Travis comes out 9:02.
Yes. It is a mass casualty event announced before Travis even gets on stage. So they've already announced that people are being trampled, people have died before Travis even takes the stage. 9:02 p.m.
My understanding too of that was that it was announced a mass casualty event, but only like internally. That it wasn't made public.
Right.
So it was only announced within within the police force. They knew, the paramedics knew, but it was only internal. It wasn't announced publicly yet.
Right. The first death was announced at 10:13 to the public. But before that, I mean, like I said, before Travis even gets on, it's announced to be a mass casualty event within them, So by 9/11, the main stage is pronounced compromised. They actually sent out, I thought this was interesting because I did see the footage from above, and I was wondering kind of how they got it. And then they announced that they had helicopters and drones and whatnot out to kind of survey the area, which is how they did get the footage where they were able to analyze the compression rate and exactly how many people that they thought were in there square footage wise. So that is all very interesting. And then, so like really between 9 to really the end of the show. So let's just say from 9 to 10, it's really just kind of a shit show. Again, more, fans start to scream for help. There's videos of them out there, where you can, it's just terrible. You know what I mean? And they just went ignored. you
Mhm.
know, which again goes back to when you're in the middle of this mass production, Travis Scott is on stage, like, what are you going to do to stop this? But there's literal video footage of, fans saying there are people dying, like there's somebody dead. You know what I mean? There's video footage of just these piles and piles of people, you know. I can just only imagine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being in mosh pit experiences, like, and I'm not one to get in there and throw elbows and stuff, but just being on the outskirts and feeling the surge of that, like, that's scary enough without having any kind of injuries, real meaningful or hard injuries, you know what I mean? Anyway, I mean, that's scary enough. So I can only imagine. There's footage of the crowd, where fans are falling. There's one video in particular of a young woman who's 22 years old, and she fell on the video, and then she's later pronounced dead. So now we're starting to get into, the real kind of bad part of this here conversation, which I think we should just stop and first and foremost say, rest easy, fam. You know what I mean? Like, just 8 deaths in the concert, but then 10, which also kind of suspicious. Um, yeah, I mean, and like the thing that blows my mind about this is that there was only 8 deaths announced at the concert. 10 without people. Like Ezra was the 9-year-old boy who died. He died afterwards. You know what I mean? So it's like 10 people total out of at least 55,000 people. Okay, so by 8 o'clock at night, there's over 300 treated in triage. There's reports of seizure activity. There's reports of cardiac arrest. Things like most of the people that they said that they did CPR on and whatnot, they had dilated pupils, which is a sign of asphyxiating on your feet. So I mean, it's just reports of like piles of people, which makes sense because they were just pulling them out, you know what I mean, at the front, and just like, what do you do with people who are passed out? You throw them to the side and go get more and hope somebody helps them. But it's like they're understaffed, and there's not enough medical devices. So it's like there's these reports of bodies 2 to 3 people deep. Where are they?
Not only that, well, yeah, it was funny because not funny, but you saw a lot of accounts of people who had made it out, but you didn't see a lot of accounts of people who were passed out and um, ended up coming to. There was a story of a guy who he passed away saving his girlfriend, who ended up making it out because she had fell and he helped her get up, and then he didn't make it out. But yeah, it was I was curious because it was during the concert, there was a gentleman in the front who passed out, and they kind of, how you can, what do you call it, crowd surf?
Yeah.
They pretty much like surfed his body to the front, like everyone pushed his body to the front over their heads.
Yep.
And he was completely unconscious.
Yep.
And it was the most eerie thing because while they're pushing his body up front, Travis did stop the show. But while he stopped the show, he was saying, yeah, like kind of just like he was singing, yeah, like it, but the way he was doing it with his auto tune, but it was kind of like a chant.
Right.
A very weird, eerie chant.
Yes, there was lots to talk about with that stuff as well. That is like kind of the first initial footage that I remember seeing of this. And I remember this event, seeing it covered on the news, and I just had like a weird feeling where I was just like, oh, that's not right. Like it just gave me like the heebie-jeebies. Like right now I'm talking about it, it's like my skin is kind of like crawling where you just kind of see the videos and hear about it and whatnot. And it's just kind of, I saw it. And I've seen people say that is faked. You know what I mean? Like it's just a faked video, manipulated video and whatnot.
It's kind of hard to think that.
I know.
Yeah.
And who knows, the pass out culture is prevalent at his concerts. It's like he wants to push you to puke, and pass out and get lit and whatever. And you know what I mean? I've seen footage of fans getting on stage and he's like, you're not fucking going hard enough. You know what I mean? And not to mention he has a history with violence at his concerts and stuff like that. So it really just doesn't shock me is the point of the matter. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then you go into the fact that like these fans, so at 9:23, these fans are literally like, screaming to stop the show, like chanting to stop the show. And I mean, there's people that are like on stage trying to get the attention of cameramen and whatnot and telling them there are people dying and all this is going on and it just goes unheeded. And the fact that Travis Scott didn't hear them, that's another point that I think is understandable but also suspicious. You know what I mean? Because it's like we have these on right now where, it centers our noise, but if there's something over there, I can hear it, and I know it cancels out a lot of it, but it's like, how do you not hear your whole entire crowd just being like, stop the show?
Well, also, it's very big. Like, how do you not see what's going on? So he's on a stage and he's elevated, and there's also objects on the stage that he climbs up on to be even higher. So he's very high up and he can see quite a bit out. So to give the viewers an idea of what's going on when you're on a stage and you're performing, yes, there are a lot of lights. You have a lot of lights in your face. You have a lot of lights that are flashing, glaring. It's very hard to, like, sometimes you don't even see the crowd.
Right.
But there was a moment where Travis pointed to someone in a tree, and that person was about 100 feet out.
Right.
Now, the people who were in the area that had the most, what do you call, that had the most casualties, the epicenter of the tragedies that happened were about 50 feet away.
Right.
So if he could see the person in the tree 100 feet away, he could possibly also see the people who were 50 feet away. Now, no one's going to answer that question. No one can answer what he could and couldn't see, except for Travis and maybe Drake.
Right. I thought it was funny, like, that he pointed out that kid in the tree, because it's like, I mean, I guess if he was just kind of hanging there enjoying the show and it didn't look like anybody was in distress, like, yeah, he would point that out. But it's like, that just struck me kind of weird, like, because at that point I'm thinking they're trying to escape. You know what I mean? And it's just like, how can you be so obtuse, but are you really?
It was also a small vehicle with
the makeshift ambulance,
ambulance,
which just so happened to get him put on Kylie's, Instagram or Snapchat or something like that, and then she quickly took it down afterwards. But it's like, yeah, that's another thing. But again, it's normal. You know what I mean? Bloody noses, normal. Passing out, normal. Overdoses, normal. So it's like, would you really know? And I agree. I think I know that there's hella lights and noises and you have canceling earphones and whatnot, but it's like they ended the show early because he got word. So why was that the first time at 10 o'clock at night that you're acknowledging?
Did they acknowledge that they ended it early because of that?
I mean, I don't know for certain, but I know that
I know it ended early.
Yes,
but they didn't acknowledge. I haven't seen anywhere acknowledge that he had knowledge of what was going on and stopped the show because of it.
I heard that he had gotten some kind of word, maybe not saying that it was a mass casualty event or these things were going on, but he had gotten word to call it early. So that's why it ended, because I think they expected at least like maybe another half an hour or so show. It's just all very peculiar, interesting, strange. Hard to say that word. I apologize. So just going down the timeline before, by 10 o'clock, everything's over by 10:08. So 10 o'clock, everything's kind of slowed down at this point, but Drake comes out. And everything kind of got riled up again when Drake came out, but then 10 o'clock, 10:08, they cancel, they end the show. So that's kind of the gist of that, the timeline of the show and whatnot. And but the thing is that these 10 victims, it just doesn't sit right with me. You know what I mean? I just cannot fathom in ratio, you know what I mean, or percentage wise, how can you have 55,000 people speculated? So maybe 55 to 75,000 people. How do you have that many people and have this many cardiac arrests, injuries, things like that, seizures and whatnot? Like these are major medical events where it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think that I could suffer a cardiac arrest and then just be like, all right, let's go to the White Castles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and so the reports say that 300 documented injuries before 8 o'clock, and then they stopped documenting. 25 people in the hospital, 10 deaths. How is that possible that there are these bodies, 2 to 3 people deep, that they're doing like numerous resuscitation, defibrillators, things like whatever, you know what I mean? How are they doing this on people and these people are just like skipping away? You know what I mean? That just doesn't sit right with me. And then you're very right. The fact that, there's all these eyewitness accounts all over Reddit and whatnot, you know what I mean? Where these people are saying, oh, I lived through this. A lot of people even said, I didn't know shit was going on. That blows my mind. But again, 55,000 people, if everything's going on in the South Quadrant, people around are not going to go, they're not going to know shit, And a lot of people said that they, had a perfectly great time. Everything was business as usual for a Travis Scott concert. They left and then they heard about the deaths in the morning on the news. And it's like, how do you not, are you so blind that you just don't see people breaking down barriers from 9 a.m.? People being trampled, people screaming, like people overdosing, like these piles of bodies. How do you not see it? It does not make a whole lot of sense to me, especially just percentage wise. 55,000 people and only 10 deaths.
Do you have any theories?
Boy, do I. I mean, so I have two different perspectives on this because on one hand, I do love me a creepy conspiracy. I do love me a creepy conspiracy that involves rap culture. I'm sure that pretty soon people do. Who shot Pac and Biggie? Who shot first? Or Credo or
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is a good one, and this is why I wanted to start here. Again, just R.I.P. to the victims. This Ezra Blount was his name. 9 years old. That's just wild, to me. Again, that's another thing. Like, it's just a terrible, tragic death. But then we also go into the fact that like these shows are notorious for being this way. And this was like a specific concert where people had asked, are all ages allowed? And Travis Scott specifically said, yes, as long as you have a parent present, you are allowed in this concert. And I think things have kind of been put into place, maybe in certain places where now you have to be 18 or older to enter, which I mean, again, I was at concerts 13, 15, Juice Priest, you know what I mean? Like Limp Bizkit. And I mean, I was young, so on one hand, I kind of feel like this is par for the course. America, you know what I mean? Like this is not the first time where we've hired shitty security, shitty personnel, shitty, just everything.
Yeah. And with the security, it wasn't even just that they hired shitty security. They were understaffed and they weren't trained well, and a lot of them had been hired 2 days prior.
Right.
The majority of them.
Right. And it's like in that particular situation, like, what do you do? I know I've personally done CPR and it is horrifying and exhausting. So it's like to be in this, and this again goes back to only 8 to 10 deaths. That doesn't make sense to me that there's literally firsthand accounts of these people doing CPR, like civilians doing CPR. Like that is terrifying and it is exhausting. Like, how do people, are they so, but then again, there's conspiracies about people being in trances, you know what I mean? And that kind of makes sense to me. So let's get into the conspiracies. First and foremost, talking about the total deaths, personal accounts say that hundreds of people died. You know what I mean? Which I think is believable, and like you said, where are their accounts? Where are the accounts of the people that are like, oh, I was personally resuscitated?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I haven't read any,
Mm-mm.
you know? Um, so if there's over 300 people being treated by triage,
Do you think that's because there is like a? Do you think you don't hear that because there can be like a lawsuit, or do you think that it just didn't happen, or something else,
I, I
or
don't,
like this they're suppressing information?
I don't know. I mean, and that all goes into like, do we really know what really is going on in Hollywood? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that like we don't have any inkling of an idea about.
Because when things like when mass casualties happen, sometimes you don't hear from the victims because they're lawyering up, and their lawyers are speaking for them.
Right, right. I mean, this has been 3 years ago, so I feel like anything that would have come to light would have come to light. I know there were lawsuits
Mhm.
where, and a lot of the victims, like Travis tried to pay for funeral expenses, a lot of them turned him away,
Mhm.
and so again, is this a matter of there really was only 10 deaths and everything's reported in hunky dory? Or is it a matter of like, maybe people being paid off, people being too afraid to speak? Like, are they even out there? You never know. All part of the conspiracy. And the thing about this whole concert is just like the imagery in it that's set up, even the promotional flyers and things like that, the Astro World album, the Escape Plan album.
What did it have?
So leading up to this concert, Travis Scott released a single called Escape Plan, okay, which I think is funny because of the situation. But on the cover, he was presented as Batboy from the tabloids back in the 90s. And on it, it reads, "The true dystopia, and the end arrives when it's really the beginning." So, and Travis was so heavy on this imagery of dystopia and utopia, in this whole entire concert, like, and the albums and things like that. And it was either him, I'm not sure if it was him quoted, but people say, in order to get to utopia, you have to go through dystopia. But it's like, well, if you're going through dystopia, wouldn't utopia just seem great no matter what it is? Anyway,
Also there was I saw that when you were walking in, um, a lot of the signs were like "See you on the other side"
yes,
and a lot
yes.
of things like that.
All kinds of weird imagery, like I said, from the singles of Astro World. It's just weird imagery, like kind of just coincidences. I'm not a person who generally believes in coincidence.
Mhm.
So the biggest thing with me, and again, so with musicians in general, okay, they use occultism and imagery, darker imagery, satanic imagery, and is it to draw in people, draw in viewers because it is things of a darker nature, more taboo nature? Are they using that to draw in viewers, or are they using that with a real purpose?
Mhm.
So the thing that sticks out about Astro World is Travis has this big statue of his head
Mhm.
as the entryway, which by the way was on The Simpsons of Krusty Land. It's funny how they just predict everything. But then again, those are some of the high ups where, yeah, I don't know. I'm just a peon. But yeah, this ginormous Travis Scott head that people have to walk into. And I mean, first and foremost, like that is represented in history through paintings. And it's actually a 15th century painting by a man named Bosch.
Mhm.
And the painting is called Christ in Lambo. So in this painting, there's a depiction of this God that has a giant gaping mouth, and it's a golden god, and it's only a head, and people enter in, and it's a demon that you sacrifice children to, okay, to get into limbo or on the other side. So essentially, it's kind of like the mouth of hell and entering into limbo. And so yeah, I just think that that's funny. But again, is it something that he's using, or maybe he's not even aware of. Maybe it's his marketing team. Maybe it's these people who are, I can see him coming up with, oh, I like the idea of dystopia. I like the idea of utopia. And then having marketing people that are on Google looking up these images of limbo, dystopia, utopia, and coming up with that. So it's like, is it coincidence or not? That these fans are entering in to the God, the mouth of Travis Scott, and then yeah, directly walking and seeing the stage. Not only is the stage literally an upside down cross, that blows my mind. That the cross, it's a literal upside down cross. But then on top of that, like in the daytime, it looked like mountains background, where it was just kind of like jaggedy, and there was a circle that said "See you on the other side," which is, you know what I mean. You walk through this Travis, and then the weirdo Travis Scott statue, the ginormous. I meant to send you a picture of it. I don't think I did, but it's just this ginormous like Travis Scott, like it's just weird. You know what I mean? So walking into like the Travis Scott God
It's a lot of idolization, which
yes,
comes from a very pagan background.
right. And is it stuff that is premeditated for a certain reason, or is it just random coincidence? Yeah, it's just a lot. I'm getting to page 14 here. Even from like the promotional posters and stuff, there's imagery of eyes and hands and stuff like that. And there's just so much that you could really, if you wanted to go down the rabbit hole with this, you could totally. There's Hamza eyes, which are the evil eyes. They ward off evil. And so the eye in the palm. But then there's also Pan's Labyrinth, the demon with the hand, eyes, or he's got two eyes in the palm of his hands, and he's a blind man, and that's a demon. And I mean, like, there's just so many rabbit holes you can go down with this one. It's a really good place to start. So much to it.
Do you think that? So, what do you know? Do you know the what do you say? How it could lead? Some people thought that maybe it was like a sacrifice.
Yes. Again, is it far fetched, or is it just I could believe it. At this day and age, I feel like anything that you can think of, like everything is based in fact. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at this point in my life, I'm just kind of like believable. It was Kris Jenner's 66th birthday. You know what I mean? Then people go into the numerology of it. It was like 666 years and blah blah blah, all this crap, and it's just like, what do you want to believe? I mean, because I could believe either way. You know what I mean? We could go into the Kardashians. If you guys want to see Kardashian conspiracies, we could do that, because there's even more with just the Hollywood rabbit hole of sacrifice. You can go so.
Yeah. And it was just every time I think about it, I just go back in my head and I see the image of the young man, which I can't even. They don't even say whether he made it out alive or not. I'm not sure, but the young man just being carried to the front with Travis just singing, and it was wild, because a lot of videos that you would see, people would be screaming and crying, and then all of a sudden you'll hear Travis in the background go, "Let's rage," and then it starts up all over again, and they're just like, "Oh my God, please make it stop."
Yeah, I mean, and just being in that situation for an hour, dude.
Yeah.
Like God, and I mean, they call it the concert from hell. They say it felt like I was in hell, and it's just like I could imagine, like the heat alone from that situation, body heat. Like it's enough that if you have two people naked in the woods, like naked and afraid, you could stay warm. You know what I mean? But imagine 55,000 bodies moving at once. The heat alone is enough to take you out. You know what I mean? Then you got to figure, yeah, if you're short, like, oh, you're shit out of luck. Having your hands raised up, the compression rate, and I don't know what this means, because I'm a girl and I don't do measurements or anything of the sort. But it says it was a 1.85 square foot compression rate. So this led to like basically cardiac asphyxiation, and again, most of the people who died or needed resuscitation had fixed and dilated pupils, which is a sign that they suffocated on their feet. And it's like suffocation when you think about it, like it must be equatable to drowning. And it's like I heard here one of the worst ways to go,
Mhm.
and it's like these people are experiencing drowning in a crowd. You know what I mean? Over time, where it's just like these people who died have been in this for half an hour, you know? Um,
Question. Ultimately, who is at fault? Can you? I mean, I understand it falls on either Houston PD, maybe it falls on Travis, maybe it falls on Live Nation. If you were to point at one person and say, okay, this could have been prevented if you didn't do a shitty job.
I don't know. There's a lot. Every answer I feel like is a right answer. I mean, Travis in particular, it's just.
Do you feel like, personally, do you feel like he ignored whatever he might have seen? Or just chopped it up to, oh, we're raging, like, it's fine. This is
Yeah.
The gig's the gig.
Yeah. I mean, I watched footage of him afterwards, like, and I mean, there are people saying he was cold and whatnot. Like, the first interview kind of rubbed me the wrong way only because he just seems like I would be devastated. You know what I mean? And he did offer to pay for funeral costs, and there were lawsuits for injuries and shit like that. So it's like they did pay out a hearty amount. But I feel like the point of being a human being is to learn from your mistakes. And I feel like the best case scenario, best thing that could come from this is for them like refining these restrictions. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, if you have a concert, like if you're going to see like fucking Neil Diamond, by all means, bring your 9-year-old. You know what I mean? But if it's a show like Travis Scott where you know that drugs, alcohol, this raging where people get bloody noses, like pass outs, all this stuff. Like if you are going to a concert where you know things like this are par for the course, maybe then put an age restriction on it. You know what I mean? Losing a 16-year-old, because there were, 9, 16, 22, 23-year-olds that died. Like losing a young person like that alone is a tragedy.
And the child, the 9-year-old.
Oh my God, Ezra, yeah.
I believe he fell off his dad's shoulders and was trampled to death.
Yes. And it's like, whose fault is it then? You know what I mean? Is it the parents' fault for bringing the child into that situation? Or is it the venue's fault for allowing a child that young? I mean, personally, like, he's had 5-year-olds up on stage with him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've heard reports of attacking children over shoes and shit, like stopping concerts to attack children. And it's just like, I don't think that there's any right answer. I just hope that, like, from this experience, that people will learn from it, change from it. I think that's kind of, I tend to be an optimist, so I kind of like to think that maybe these horrible things happen to move us in a collective into a better direction.
Did you do any research on what the sacrifice could have been for?
So, yeah. With the imagery, of course, everybody always leans satanic. I mean, this was covered on the 700 Club. You know what I mean? And the speculations are with Kris Jenner turning 66, like that's a specific number, 666, you know what I mean? So there's speculations that it could have been for her birthday and whatnot, which I feel is far-fetched, but then again, you never know. I mean, with the talks of the Illuminati, even J. You know what I mean? Like all this kind of underground shit we know nothing about, that I'm kind of like, should I even be talking about this? You know what I mean? And who knows? But just in Luciferianism and whatnot, Satanism. There are history of sacrifices, things like that, having to have bloodshed in order to move up. I mean, that's just like the Illuminati and whatnot, totally different story for a totally different day. I really want to chalk it up as just an American tragedy. You know what I mean? Things like this happen all the time. But I would like to, in my creepy heart of hearts to maybe think that it was something more. Um, but I hope not. You know, it's just it's a tragic subject, and I hope that we can learn from this. Just better crowd management. You know, better maybe escape exits. You know what I mean? Things of those nature. Definitely putting an age limit on concerts. There's no way a 9-year-old should be able. I wouldn't even take like a 9-year-old to, especially not in a pit type of setting. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That was different.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you're taking your 9-year-old to the Foo Fighters and you got them in the nosebleeds, you know what I mean? By all means, you know. But when you're in that type of situation, a sea of 25 plus thousand people, and you have your, yeah, it's just, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whose fault it is. Another strange thing. What about those fire pillars? There were 8 fire pillars and 8 deaths. That's one of the things that people bring up online
Yeah,
as
what
like
is that?
imagery. So yeah, just like the 8 fire pillars of fire that he had on the stage. I mean, like then there's 8 deaths. Is that a
Mhm.
coincidence? There's lots of different things with this that go that direction down the rabbit holes. You know. So I don't know. Oh, and then another thing, the imagery on his shirt. There's just lots of different imagery
Yeah.
everywhere. The imagery on his shirt I noticed today in particular was like a little man that was blue, and then there was a doorway, and then the little man goes to the doorway and then comes out red.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's
The
just,
whole other side thing.
yes,
So
yes.
creepy.
I know, I know. The whole like, you know, welcome to dystopia. Like you have to go through dystopia to get to utopia. The end is really the beginning. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I could see how people would think that it was a sacrifice. Oh, and the most interesting thing that I really wanted to point out is the fact that there were a lot of people from the jump who reported frequencies. You know what I mean? And hearing or feeling these strange frequencies and whatnot that made them anxious and whatnot. And I thought that that was very interesting because I'm an avid horror fan,
Mhm.
fan of horror movies. And horror movies in particular will use these frequencies that are below 20 hertz. And those are not necessarily heard by us, or maybe like low frequencies, but they're used in those productions to make people feel anxious.
Mhm.
Like those are, you know, anxious or unrest or unease, you know what I mean? And it's just like I would believe that they would play low frequencies in order to put the crowd into a certain state. You know what I mean? So to maybe create, like I said, because Travis culture is very much just rage culture, is it possible that they may have used these lower frequencies to almost incite that type of behavior? And
Mhm.
I think for one, that is completely believable, especially considering like a lot of this was documented. You know what I mean? It wouldn't shock me to use that in concerts, music, like music across the ages is known to just have subliminal messaging. You know, back in the day, it was like, oh, you play this vinyl backwards and it says like, I love Satan. You know what I mean? And it just really would not shock me if they did do something like that just to produce a feeling in the crowd, you know what I mean? And they reported, and it's just like how different things affect different people. You know what I mean? How dust allergy may affect you, but not me. Then there's reports of people having seizures and trances and whatnot from these frequencies where it's like, yeah, there's 50,000 people there. Who's to say that everybody's going to be affected the same?
Mhm.
So I thought that that was very interesting and also believable that they would use those. Um, yeah, just a lot of different stuff with this one. I said we can go on for hours and hours. I personally suggest everybody going down the rabbit hole. Tell us what you think for sure. You know what your opinion is. Is it a ritual sacrifice or satanic panic?
Mhm.
You know, and then also anything else that our fans want to see. Like I said, I'm down for Pac and Biggie.
Mhm.
Kurt Cobain, I think would be a good one to cover. You know, who killed Cobain? Because I think that there's a lot to that one as well. And then of course we can go out about Pac and Biggie
All day long.
all day long.
I spent too much time thinking about that. Just to add just a sprinkle of a little bit extra. So Travis Scott, he comes out with the album Astro World
Yes.
2018, and then doesn't have another album come out until 2023, and the name of that album is Utopia.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I think that there's way too much in it for it just to be a coincidence.
Mhm.
I think it's definitely like very strategic marketing. He's using very strategic imagery. And like I said, it's totally plausible for him to just be completely organizing this because it is obviously good advertising tactics.
Mhm.
It's good crowd draw. Obviously, we're doing a podcast about it right now about all this imagery and whatnot in his
Mhm.
shows, and it's just it seems like he doesn't know or didn't know, but
He stays very quiet
yes,
about it.
yes,
He doesn't talk about it very much in interviews, things like that. I mean, the most public thing I believe was just him offering to pay for the funerals, which the families felt like that was a big slap in the face. I don't know how I would feel
yeah,
about that
right,
if he offered to pay for the funeral of my family member or something like that happened, because I would have found him liable
yeah,
to a degree. So it's just, it doesn't really sit well with me. But definitely, if anyone else has any stories or experiences, or was there, there were two guys from Illinois
oh really,
that passed away
yeah, yeah,
in Houston. They were from Illinois. So um, if anybody has anything to share that they about the experience or anything like that, or were there personally, we definitely would call in. We can definitely have you on the pot that way. We love that feedback.
yes, absolutely. A follow up would be great, even if we could do like a, cam from wherever they are type of
Yep.
deal. I personally would love if you would call in and you were one of the resuscitated. These
Right.
are the people that I want to hear from.
Right.
I want to hear from the people who are having the seizures, they're being resuscitated, the piles of people.
Right.
Like, I want to know, are you okay? Where are you now? How is your life? What are you experiencing? Like, because we're inclined to believe that you're not really out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. With all the people that were injured and things like that, you don't hear those firsthand reports. Minor injuries, yeah, had a really hell of a time, yeah, but uh,
yeah,
it's really hard to find people who might have blacked out or things like that. Or,
yeah,
I mean, I want to find the gentleman who was carried through the crowd
right,
and
right.
given to the security. What happened to him?
Right. I mean, I totally agree. I just, where are these people? Where are you? We hope the best for
Mhm.
you. And yeah, please call us, let us know. We'd be more than happy to hear from you, discuss, and let the people know your story.
Cool,
All right.
cool,
You have
cool.
anything else that you want to add?
I'm good. I like this. This is interesting. It's a nice little add-on to complement the rest of the pods, the entertainment panel, all the panels. So this is cool. I like that we got to do this.
I am definitely stoked on this. I'm definitely looking to making it, looking forward to making it a regular thing because there's just so much in media,
Mhm.
that goes with this as far as like, God, we can go back to like the 60s, 70s with just like, you know, this kind of imagery and things and bands.
Weird shit in
Yes,
Hollywood.
yes, Kiss, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest. There's just 100 million bands that we can cover where there's this kind of stuff, which leads me back to my point. Is this all coincidence or is it all more deeply rooted? Because I've been through enough shit where I'm inclined to think it's all more deeply rooted.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that sounds good.
Well, we will get out of here. We thank you guys for rocking with us. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Definitely check us back here. This is a nice knockout hour. It's a lot shorter than our other shows, but we definitely want to keep doing this. And leave us your comments. Leave us some suggestions. Leave us some feedback. Like, share, subscribe. We love our followers. And like I said, this is your panel. This is your network. But we will see you guys soon.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. I look forward to speaking with you guys more, covering more interesting topics. If you're in the Northwest Indiana area, I am a double licensed barber cosmetology. I would be more than happy to tape you, fade you. Thank you. Yeah, just slide into the DMs and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. Well, that's not true, but
No,
yeah.
within reason.
Within reason. All right. Well, we love you. You get a little Sammy Sosa moment. That's for my boy Shaq.
Shaq, you know what time it is. We'll see you guys.
Yes. All right.
That's funny. All right. So we're good there.
Well, that was fun.
Hell yeah. Let's get our live.
I'm still recording. I'm like wiping my nose with my sweater.
Oh, no, you're good.